The evening shift at the reactor maintenance facility had been brutal. Devon Hartley dragged himself up the concrete stairs to his third-floor apartment, every muscle in his body protesting. The cooling system had malfunctioned again, and he had spent 14 hours in the sweltering engine room, covered in grease and sweat. All he wanted was a cold shower, and whatever frozen meal was hiding in the back of his freezer. Devon fumbled with his keys, nearly dropping them twice before managing to unlock the door. The apartment was dark and silent, exactly as he had left it that morning. He kicked off his steel-toed boots and stumbled toward the kitchen, not bothering to turn on the main lights. The dim glow from the street lamps outside provided just enough illumination to navigate. As he reached for the refrigerator handle, Devon froze. A sound had caught his attention. A tiny, almost imperceptible rustling coming from somewhere near the counter. His exhausted brain struggled to process it. Probably just the building settling, or maybe a mouse. But the sound came again, more distinct this time, accompanied by what sounded like a frustrated sigh. Devon flicked on the kitchen light, squinting against the sudden brightness. Nothing seemed out of place. The dishes were still stacked in the drying rack, where he had left them. The counters were cluttered with the usual collection of coffee mugs and takeout containers. Everything appeared normal until his eyes landed on the cabinet above the stove. The door was slightly ajar. Devon always kept that cabinet closed because the latch was broken and it tended to swing open on its own. But something was different now. A faint, otherworldly glow emanated from the crack, pulsing gently like a miniature heartbeat. His hand trembled as he reached up and pulled the cabinet door fully open. What he saw inside made him stagger backward, his tired mind refusing to accept the reality before him. A tiny alien girl sat perched on a can of tomato soup, no taller than his hand was long. She had luminescent silver skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light, casting soft shadows across the cabinet's interior. Her eyes were large and expressive, colored a deep violet that seemed to hold galaxies within them. Long, flowing hair the color of starlight cascaded down her back, moving as if touched by an invisible breeze. She wore a suit made of some kind of organic material that looked like woven moonlight, hugging her petite but perfectly proportioned figure. The tiny alien stared back at him with equal surprise, her violet eyes widening with fear. She scrambled to her feet on the soup can, backing away until her shoulders pressed against a box of pasta. Her small chest rose and fell rapidly, and Devon could see her trembling. For several long seconds, neither of them moved. Devon's rational mind battled with the impossible sight before him. He had heard rumors of alien encounters, of course. Everyone had since the first contact 2 years ago. But those aliens had been huge, towering creatures from the Andromeda Cluster who communicated through telepathy and kept to their diplomatic zones. Nobody had mentioned anything about tiny aliens living in kitchen cabinets. "Please do not hurt me." The tiny alien finally spoke, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I mean no harm to you. I am simply trying to survive." Devon blinked hard, wondering if the reactor fumes had finally gotten to him. He pinched his arm hard enough to leave a mark. The pain was real. The tiny alien was real. "How did you get in here?" Devon asked, his voice hoarse with shock. "Who are you?" The tiny alien relaxed slightly, seeming to sense that he was not an immediate threat. "My name is Tilara. I am from the planet Veyloria in the Crestana system. My escape pod crashed on your planet 3 weeks ago. I have been hiding in this building ever since, moving between apartments when the humans leave for work. Yours has been the safest because you are rarely home." Devon slowly pulled out one of his kitchen chairs and sat down before his legs gave out. His mind raced with questions, each more impossible than the last. "You've been living in my apartment? Eating my food?" Tilara nodded, shame coloring her luminescent features. "Only small amounts. Crumbs of bread, a few grains of rice, drops of water. You would never notice what I take. I am so very small, and I need so little to survive." Her voice broke slightly. "I am sorry for invading your home. I had nowhere else to go." Devon ran his hand through his hair, trying to process this information. "Why did you crash here? Where is the rest of your crew?" "I was alone," Tilara said softly, sitting back down on the soup can. Her tiny shoulders slumped with exhaustion. My planet is dying. Our sun is collapsing, and we have only months before everything is destroyed. The Veyloria Council sent out thousands of scout ships to find new worlds where our people might relocate. I volunteered because I am small. My ship required fewer resources. But something went wrong with the navigation system. I ended up here, on Earth, far from any planned route. Devon leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, studying the tiny alien with growing fascination. The fear was fading, replaced by curiosity and something he could not quite name. Why did not you go to the authorities? The United Nations has an alien relations department now. They could help you. Tilara laughed bitterly, a sound like tiny bells cracking. Because I am small. Because my people are small. The galaxy does not take us seriously. The larger species think we are insignificant. Cute perhaps, but not worth consideration. When I tried to send a distress signal, I intercepted communications from your government. They were discussing how to capture and study any new alien species that arrived. I would become a laboratory specimen, trapped in a cage, poked and prodded until I died of stress or heartbreak. The raw emotion in her voice struck Devon deeply. He thought about his own life, working endless hours for a corporation that saw him as nothing more than a replaceable part in their machine. He understood what it felt like to be small and insignificant in a world that did not care. You cannot stay in my cabinet, Devon said finally. Tilara's face fell, and he quickly continued. I mean, it is not comfortable, and you are living off crumbs like some kind of mouse. That is no way to exist. If you are going to be here, we should at least make it livable for you. Tilara's violet eyes widened with hope and disbelief. You would help me? But I am a stranger. An alien. You do not owe me anything. Devon stood up and walked to the cabinet, holding out his palm. No, I do not owe you anything. But you are alone and scared and trying to survive. That is enough for me. Come on, let me get a better look at you in proper light. Tilara hesitated for only a moment before stepping onto his outstretched hand. She weighed almost nothing, like holding a feather or a whisper. Her tiny feet pressed against the skin, warm despite her diminutive size. Devon carefully brought her down to eye level, and for the first time, he truly saw her. She was breathtaking. Even at her tiny size, or perhaps because of it, there was something ethereal and captivating about Tilara. Her features were delicate but strong, her expression a mixture of vulnerability and determination. The way she stood on his palm, not cowering but meeting his gaze with dignity, spoke to an inner strength that transcended her physical size. Thank you, Tilara whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. You have no idea what your kindness means to me. I have been so alone. Devon felt something shift in his chest, a warmth spreading through him that had nothing to do with the stuffy apartment air. Well, you are not alone anymore. We will figure this out together. But first, we need to get you set up properly. And maybe you can tell me more about your planet and why you really volunteered for such a dangerous mission. Tilara smiled, and it was like watching a star being born. There is much to tell. But Devon, you must understand that by helping me, you may be putting yourself in danger. If your authorities discover that you are harboring an unregistered alien, there will be consequences. Devon carried her carefully to the living room, his mind already working to the logistics of hiding a tiny alien from the world. I have been in danger every day working at that reactor facility. At least this danger comes with interesting company. Now, let me find something more comfortable for you than a soup can. How do you feel about shoeboxes? As Tilara began to laugh, a sound of pure relief and joy, Devon realized that his boring, exhausted life had just become infinitely more complicated and infinitely more interesting. The tiny alien in his hand represented a mystery, a responsibility, and perhaps something more that he was only beginning to understand. The first night was awkward and uncertain. Devon had cleared out an old shoebox that once held his work boots, lining it with soft cotton t-shirts and placing it on his bedside table. Tilara had watched him work with quiet gratitude, occasionally offering suggestions about ventilation and light exposure that reminded him she came from a civilization far more advanced than his own. Now, 3 days later, Devon found himself rushing home from work with an excitement he had not felt in years. He had stopped at a craft store during his lunch break, picking up miniature furniture meant for dollhouses, along with fabric scraps and tiny LED lights. The cashier had given him a strange look when he explained it was for a project, but Devon had not cared. When he unlocked his apartment door, Tilara was waiting on the kitchen counter where he had left a small platform for her. She had been exploring his bookshelf earlier, reading the spines of his collection with fascination. Now she stood at attention, her silver skin glowing softly in the afternoon light streaming through the window. "You are home early," Tilara observed, her voice carrying genuine pleasure. Her violet eyes tracked the shopping bag in his hand with curiosity. "What did you bring?" Devon gently emptied the contents onto the counter, spreading out the miniature furniture and supplies. "I thought we could build you a proper living space. Something better than shoebox. You deserve more than makeshift accommodations." Tilara approached the tiny chair, running her small hand along its wooden surface. Her expression shifted through several emotions before settling on something that looked like overwhelmed gratitude. "Devon, you did not have to do this. You have already done so much for me. I want to," Devon said simply, pulling up a stool so they were closer to eye level. "Besides, if you're going to be teaching me about advanced alien physics and stellar navigation like you promised, the least I can do is make sure you are comfortable." Over the next few hours, they worked together to construct a small habitat in the corner of Devon's bedroom. Using a large glass terrarium he had found in the storage closet, they created a multi-level living space, complete with a bedroom area, a small study with books Devon had printed in miniature, and even a bathroom area with a water-featured Devon rig from an old fountain pen mechanism. As they worked, Tilara shared stories of Veyloria. Her planet had once been a paradise, she explained, with cities built into branches of massive crystal trees that grew miles into the sky. The Veylorians were an ancient race, small in stature but vast in knowledge. They had mastered quantum mechanics thousands of years before humans had discovered fire. Their art, music, and literature filled entire archives that would take lifetimes to explore. "But our sun betrayed us," Tilara said softly, sitting on the edge of the terrarium while Devon adjusted a tiny lamp. The astronomers noticed the changes 50 years ago. At first, they thought they could reverse it, could somehow stabilize the fusion reactions. But the collapse accelerated faster than anyone predicted. Now we have less than a year before the final implosion. Devon paused in his work, looking at the tiny alien with new understanding. "That is why you volunteered. You were trying to save your entire species." Tilara nodded, her starlight hair falling across her face. "Someone had to go. Someone had to find worlds where we could relocate, where billions of Veyllorians might start again. I am young, and I have no family. My parents died in a ship accident when I was small. I had nothing to lose and everything to give." "You have yourself to lose," Devon said quietly. "That is not nothing." Their eyes met, and something passed between them in that moment, an understanding, a connection that transcended their differences in size and origin. Devon felt his heart rate quicken, a warmth spreading through his chest that had nothing to do with the stuffy apartment. The days turned into weeks. Devon fell into a routine that felt more natural than anything in his previous life. He would wake early, check on Tilara in her habitat, and prepare breakfast. She could not eat regular human food in its normal proportions, so Devon had learned to create tiny portions, cutting vegetables into microscopic pieces and preparing grain-sized servings of protein. Tilara had taught him about Veylorian nutrition, and he had modified his shopping to accommodate her needs. During the day while Devon worked, Tilara explored the apartment with growing confidence. She had rigged a series of rope bridges and pulley systems that allowed her to travel from room to room at various heights. Devon would come home to find her reading his books through a magnifying glass she had crafted from a water droplet and a piece of curved plastic, or watching educational videos on his tablet, which he could operate by jumping on the screen. In the evenings, they talked. Devon would sit on his bed or couch, and Tilara would perch nearby, sometimes on his shoulder or on the arm of the furniture. She told him about Veylorian culture, about their philosophy that size was not a measure of worth, that the smallest beings could contain the largest souls. She spoke of music that humans could not hear, of colors beyond the visible spectrum, of mathematics that described dimensions humans had not yet discovered. Devon shared his own stories, though they seemed mundane by comparison. He talked about growing up in a dying industrial town, about losing his father to a factory accident, about his dreams of becoming an engineer that had been crushed by economic reality. He confessed his loneliness, the way he had been drifting through life without purpose or connection. "You are not alone anymore," Tilara had said one evening, echoing his words from their first night. "And neither am I." It was during the third week that everything changed. Devon had been fixing dinner, preparing both a regular portion for himself and a tiny portion for Tilara. She sat on the counter near the stove, watching him work with an expression of contentment. The evening light cast a golden glow through the window, illuminating her silver skin and making her appear even more otherworldly. "Can I ask you something personal?" Devon said, carefully dicing a carrot into minuscule pieces. "Of course," Tilara replied. "We have moved beyond formalities, have we not?" Devon hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Do you ever regret it? Volunteering for the mission? You gave up everything, and now you are stuck here, in hiding, with no way to contact your people or complete your mission." Tilara was quiet for a long moment, her violet eyes distant. "I thought I would regret it. When I crashed, when I realized I was stranded and alone, I was terrified. I spent the first week in the walls of this building, surviving on dust and condensation, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake." She turned to look at him, and Devon saw something in her expression that made his breath catch. "But then I met you, and for the first time since leaving Veyloria, I felt like I had found something worth more than the mission. You see me, Devon, not as a curiosity or a specimen or a problem to be solved. You see me as a person." Devon set down his knife, moving closer to the counter. "I do see you, Tilara. Sometimes I forget how small you are, because your presence feels so much larger than your size." Tilara stood up, walking to the edge of the counter closest to him. "Devon, I need to tell you something. My people have the ability to sense emotional resonance. It is how we communicate on deeper levels than words. And I can feel what you feel when you are near me. The way your heart rate increases, the warmth of your affection, the depth of your care." Devon felt his face flush. "Is that wrong? I know we are different species, different sizes. I have been trying to keep it professional, to just be a good host, but you're falling in love with a tiny alien," Tilara finished softly. "And the truth is, Devon, I am falling in love with you too. My people do not measure love by physical compatibility or conventional standards. We measure it by the resonance of souls, by the harmony of spirits. And your spirit resonates with mine in ways I never expected to find." Devon carefully extended his hand, palm up, on the counter. Tilara walked onto it without hesitation. He brought her close to his face, and for a long moment, they simply looked at each other. The size difference seemed irrelevant. All that mattered was a connection between them. "How does this even work?" Devon asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I mean, practically speaking." Tilara smiled, reaching out to touch his cheek with her tiny hand. He could barely feel the physical pressure, but the emotional impact was enormous. "We figure out together. Love has never been about practicality. It is about commitment, understanding, and the willingness to bridge any distance. Besides, my people have technology you cannot imagine. There are ways to share experiences, to connect on levels beyond the physical." Devon felt tears prick his eyes. "I want to protect you. I want to help you find a way to save your people. I want to give you everything you deserve. And I want to show you that you are worth more than you believe," Tilara said firmly. "You have spent your life being told you are just another worker, another cog in a machine. But you are brilliant and kind and capable of so much more. Together, we can be more than we are separately." That night, Devon fell asleep with Tilara resting in a specially designed sleeping nook built into his pillow. She was close enough that he could feel the faint warmth of her presence, could hear the soft sound of her breathing. For the first time in years, Devon felt complete. The following weeks brought new challenges and deeper connection. Tilara began teaching Devon advanced Veylorian science, starting with basic concepts and building toward the revolutionary technologies her people had developed. Devon proved to be a quick study, his natural aptitude for engineering finally finding an outlet. Together, they started working on a project to rebuild Tilara's communication device, hoping to send a message to the Veylorian fleet. But more than the science, their relationship deepened in countless small ways. Devon learned to read Tilara's moods by the subtle shifts in her bioluminescence. Tilara learned to interpret Devon's expressions and body language with uncanny accuracy. They developed their own language of gestures and shared references. They laughed together over silly human television shows that Tilara found fascinating. They comforted each other during moments of doubt and fear. One evening, after a particularly frustrating day at work where Devon's supervisor had berated him for the 1,000th time, he came home defeated. Tilara immediately sensed his distress. She had him sit on the couch, then projected a hologram from a small device she had been building. Images of Veyloria filled his living room, beautiful and heartbreaking. Crystal cities reaching toward purple skies. Fields of flowers that sang in harmonics. Oceans that glowed with bioluminescent life. This is what I am fighting for, Tilara said. But it is also what I want to share with you. If we can establish contact, if we can help my people relocate, you could see these wonders in person. You could be part of something extraordinary. Devon watched the images with wonder, but his eyes kept returning to Tilara herself. I am already part of something extraordinary. I found you. The breakthrough came on a rainy Saturday morning, exactly 2 months after Devon had first discovered Tilara in his kitchen cabinet. They had been working tirelessly on reconstructing her communication device, using parts Devon scavenged from electronics stores and the reactor facility. Tilara had guided him through the complex assembly process, her tiny hands surprisingly dexterous as she manipulated components that were enormous relative to her size. Devon held his breath as Tilara made the final connection. The device hummed to life, emitting a soft harmonic tone that seemed to resonate in his chest. Tiny lights flickered across its surface in patterns that Tilara assured him were actual messages encoded in quantum states. It is working, Tilara breathed, her voice filled with disbelief and hope. Devon, it is actually working. I am receiving beacon signals from a Veylorian scout fleet. They are still out there, still searching. How far away are they? Devon asked, kneeling beside the table where they had set up their makeshift laboratory. Tilara's expression fell slightly as she interpreted the data streaming across a miniature display. 3 months at their current speed. But, Devon, there is something else. The signals indicate that the solar collapse is accelerating. My people have less time than we thought. Maybe 6 months now before Veyloria becomes uninhabitable. Then we need to speed up the timeline, Devon said firmly. Can you send a message back? Let them know you found a potential relocation site. Tilara began working the controls with practiced efficiency. Yes, but there is a complication. I need to transmit geographical data, atmospheric composition, and biosignatures. That requires more power than this device can generate on its own. I would need to tap into a significant energy source. Devon thought for a moment, his engineering mind working through the possibilities. The reactor facility. I could potentially route power from one of the auxiliary systems. It would be risky, and I would need to do it during a maintenance window when security is lightest, but it is possible. Devon, no. Tilara protested immediately. You could lose your job. You could be arrested. I cannot ask you to take that risk for me. You are not asking, Devon said gently. I am offering. Tilara, your entire civilization is at stake. Billions of lives. If I can help save them by risking my mediocre job, and maybe some jail time, that is a trade I am willing to make. Tilara was silent for a long moment, her violet eyes searching his face. Why? Why would you sacrifice so much for people you have never met? Because I love you, Devon said simply. And because you have shown me that life can be about more than just surviving day to day. You have given me purpose. Let me return the favor. The plan came together over the next week. Devon studied the reactor facility's schedule meticulously, identify a 4-hour maintenance window on the following Saturday when only a skeleton crew would be present. He designed a portable power converter that could interface with Tilara's device, disguised as standard diagnostic equipment. Tilara prepared the message package containing detailed information about Earth's suitability for Veylorian colonization. But as the day approached, complications arose. Devon noticed unmarked vehicles parked near his apartment building. Twice, he spotted men in dark suits watching the entrance. His supervisor at work had been asking unusual questions about his personal life. Someone was investigating him. "We need to move up the timeline," Devon told Tilara on Friday evening. "I think someone knows something. Maybe they detected your crash site or picked up signals from your communication attempts. We do this tomorrow night or not at all." Tilara agreed, though Devon could see the fear in her eyes. That night, they reviewed the plan one final time. Devon would smuggle Tilara into the facility in a specially designed detective case disguised as a toolbox. She would guide him through the process of tapping into the reactor's auxiliary power grid and transmitting her message. If everything went smoothly, they would be in and out in under an hour. As Devon prepared for bed, Tilara asked him to bring her close. She stood in his palm, looking up at him with an expression of profound tenderness. "Devon, whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that meeting you has been the greatest gift of my life. You have shown me that love transcends all boundaries, that kindness exists even in the darkest corners of the galaxy." Devon felt tears threaten to fall. "We are going to succeed tomorrow. You're going to save your people, and then we will figure out how to be together properly. Maybe your people have technology that could allow us to physically connect. Maybe we find another way. But we will have time to figure it out." Tilara smiled, though sadness tinged the expression. "I hope you are right. But if something goes wrong, if I do not make it, I need you to promise me something. Promise me you will not go back to the life you had before. Promise me you will remember that you are extraordinary and that you deserve to chase your dreams." "I promise," Devon whispered. "But you are making it back with me." "We both are." Saturday evening arrived with ominous clouds gathering over the city. Devon dressed in his work uniform, carefully packing Tilara and her communication device into the modified toolbox. The protective case kept her safe and hidden, with tiny air holes disguised as part of the tool organizer. As he drove the facility, his hands trembled on the steering wheel. Security waved him through the gate without issue. Devon parked in his usual spot and carried the toolbox toward the reactor building, his identification badge granting him access through multiple checkpoints. Everything seemed normal until he reached the auxiliary control room. 2 men in suits stood waiting near the door. Government agents, unmistakably. Devon's heart sank, but he forced himself to remain calm. He nodded politely and moved to enter the room. "Devon Hartley?" one of the agents said, stepping into his path. "We need to speak with you. Please come with us." Devon's mind raced. He could not let them search the toolbox. "Can this wait? I have critical maintenance scheduled right now. The auxiliary cooling system needs immediate attention, or we risk a cascade failure." The second agent smiled coldly. "No, Mr. Hartley, this cannot wait. We have reason to believe you are harboring an unregistered extraterrestrial entity. We need you to open that toolbox immediately." Time seemed to slow. Devon could feel Tilara's presence in the toolbox, could almost sense her fear. He thought about running, about fighting, about all the choices that led to this moment. And then he thought about what Tilara had taught him, that the smallest beings had contained the largest courage. "No," Devon said firmly, "I will not open the toolbox. And you cannot make me without a warrant, which I am guessing you do not have since this facility requires federal authorization for any searches." The agents exchanged glances. One reached for his radio. Before he could speak into it, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red emergency lights bathed the corridor. A voice came over the intercom announcing a critical failure in Reactor Core 3.